Hello, and you're very welcome to this installment of the Staff Room. The Staff Room hopes to be a weekly chat with teachers and educators about what they're doing in their classrooms. In today's Staff Room, we're joined by Sarah Jane Carey, and she's going to tell us about how she uses Teams in her classroom. We're also joined by Neil O'Sullivan. He'll give us a rundown of how he uses Office 365 in his school. We're also joined by Adrienne Webb. She has some exciting news with regard to some webinars in relation to the PBST. We also have Chris Rayner here. Chris Rayner is going to give us a quick rundown of some tips and tools that you might find useful for your classroom. My name is Hassan Daba, and I hope you can stick with us for the next half hour or so. We're going to kick things off. We're going to jump straight in. Neil gives us a quick run through about how he's using Office 365 in his classroom. Don't forget, if you have any questions, at CESI Tweets is the place to contact us.
We have Office 365 in our school. It's a secondary school in South Dublin, and all the students are registered on Office 365, but in the senior classes don't necessarily log on to the OneDrive as much as the junior, first year, and second year classes. And in my case, I'm teaching a transition year class, and this is what I'm going to base my experience on. We've created. I've used OneNote a lot and Class Notebook outside of Teams. Before I really got involved with Teams, I was using that, and I added my students from the database, the school database, so it was easy enough. And then when they'd go into their shared account in their OneDrive, they just click on shared with me, and they'd see the OneNote file that I created for them. And then I'd have exercises and notes and lesson plans and links and stuff like that they could use as part of the face-to-face classes which I was using. Now, since the COVID-19 crisis, the school has recommended that we use Teams. And it is my first experience of using Teams. But when I went in there, I found it very easy to create a team for the class and to add all the students again very simply from the database. And then within Teams, you can create a OneNote file, a class notebook. And again, when you create that class notebook, all the students that are in the team are automatically added. So it's fantastic. And it saves. So then you have all the features that are available within Teams, which is a kind of a chat function and a message function and all that. But you can also have, as I thought, which was a great idea, you can also have Class Notebook and OneNote that the students can register and log on to. So that was fine until about maybe 2 or 3 days into it, we noticed that they weren't really accessing OneNote at all. And I'd give them a message, but I couldn't see any activity. Nobody was going on board, and it was difficult to get them. So what we decided to do then was, I could actually, within Teams, I could go into edit the team, and then I could see who actually was online or offline at that particular point in time. All right, but that really, maybe there's 30 students in each of my classes, and there's 3 classes, so that's 90 students. So you might have 2 from one class and 2 from another class and 2 from another class, which was kind of really not feasible. So then we decided to, instead of using the class notebook, what we do was we'd create assignments and use the assignment feature that's within Teams. And in doing that, then we'd create an assignment, upload the content. Again, that would have been in the OneNote file, so it's just a case of copy and pasting. But they'd have the instructions for what they had to do, and say the task that I gave them to do was to create a podcast. And the idea was they were going to create a podcast on something that they really found very useful when they were in transition year, or life under COVID-19. What is it like each day? So they could make a historical podcast of what was like in COVID-19. And the tool we were going to use was Anchor. Now, they had been introduced to Anchor before we broke up, and they had started using Anchor to begin creating a podcast. So we thought that was great, and everything was grand until I went online and I noticed that even the most enthusiastic of my guys weren't connecting in and completing the assignments. I could see that they had looked at it, but I didn't see an awful lot of other activity apart from that. And getting them all on like I said, the class was at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. Getting everybody online at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday seemed to be practically impossible. So what we decided to experiment with, and we haven't actually done it yet because there's a few logistics we have to iron out, was that we'd get Zoom and maybe even if get a 5 or a 10-minute face-to-face with the whole lot of them, or with as many as we could, to re-emphasize, to get onto Teams, get onto the assignment and actually do the business, and that we'd use Zoom. Now, the problem, every student has their email address from the school, but the email addresses are on the school, are on the laptops at home in the house. So there could be 2 students from the one college on the laptop. So the 2 of them can't go online, obviously, at the same time. So that's an issue. They can't get on because one fella is on it and the other fella can't get on because his older brother is on there or something like that. So that was one reason for the poor attendance. So what I was going to suggest, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback on this, if we got the students to put Zoom on their iPhones, on their smartphones, with their college email address, and put Outlook on their phones with the school email address as well, when we send them a Zoom message, they'll automatically get notified on it on their phones. Then we can say Zoom meeting starting at 11 o'clock, get ready. So then we'll know that everybody has got their meeting message and they should be there at 11 o'clock to go for the meeting. So they can't say, oh, I logged in later, or I'm going to log in tomorrow this evening or whatever. And basically that's where we're at the moment.
And Sarah Jane, how are you finding Microsoft in your school?
Yeah, it's working very well. And we would have the same issues, Neil, about attendance, I suppose you could call it now. It's really attendance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And submitting homework. So it's just like as if we were at school, really. We would have the same issues in that there might be lots of students using one device. They mightn't get to class. Like ours, we're not expecting all of the students to attend class at that time. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just not feasible for lots of students. There might be loads in the family using the one device, as you mentioned. It might be a case that they're looking after young children while the parents are at work. They could be waiting for the device that their parents are working on during the day to do at night. So that's why we kind of like Teams, because when you do a remote meeting, you can record it. So what we're saying to students is, listen, we're going to record the meeting, and if you're there, great. And if not, you'll see the recording later on. And we've gotten them all to download Teams onto their phone as well, so that they're checking Teams on their phone, and they also have their email on their phones. And if there's a class coming up, you can schedule a reminder in there. And you get the reminder in Teams. And a couple of them asked for that. We weren't initially, because it's hard, I mean, we're only not even a week into it now. And we were scheduling, we hadn't started scheduling meetings, but a couple of my 6-years even today said, and they would have a class first thing on a Friday morning. And, they said, will you put in a reminder to remind us that the class is live? Because we're not, like for my particular class now, I'm not meeting them every day live. I'm going to just do it once a week for a few minutes to check in, like you were saying, just to make sure everything's okay. And we're providing them with work, and they're supposed to hand in the work then, and we're checking on that and following up individually if they're not, like sending an email individually, asking them all to, like I sent a message out last week to say, now class, this is great. I realize you can't all get here at the same time, and some teachers can't actually be here at your class time, but we are here for you. And please either like this message with a thumbs up so that I know how many people are here, because at the minute it looks like I have 7 out of a class of 30, that kind of a message. And that did work. Now we haven't used Zoom because we're just using Teams at the minute. So we're only a week into it, like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take a while for people to get used to it. And even in the households, you kind of have to remember, I think, that the homes must be all over the place. They could be dealing with illness, job loss, all that type of thing. So that's just how we're getting on with it.
And say with your team, Sarah Jane, then are you able to do video recording there, or is it just voice? Or
no, video as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So
well,
we do a video from Yeah. So
I didn't realize that you could do that, which is great.
Yeah, you just press the video. When you go to, if you're on your desktop as a teacher, right?
Yeah.
This is what the teacher you're talking about. So if you go into Teams and there's the post section where you leave all your messages,
Yeah.
At the bottom of a post, if you're doing a new post, you'll see attach a file or a GIF or a emoji.
Yeah.
And there's another button that looks like a video camera. And if you
Yeah.
hit that, you get the Meet Now button. And the remote thing comes up. And then there's the 3 dots, is the ellipsis. Then you'll see the toolbar that has the ellipsis. And inside that, it says record meeting. And it records then.
All right. Okay.
And it records right into the team. So when it's done, that's why it's so handy for students, because when it's finished, when the meeting's over, a little message will go in the post section when you hit stop recording. And just be careful that you do hit stop recording, because the end of your recording could be like, now class, this is dreadful. None of you are handing in your work. You know?
Yeah.
You don't want that to be there forever.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine the memes that have come out of that one.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you get a message right in there in the post to say, your meeting is now recording and will be ready and uploaded, available on stream if you like. So, you know, they have their stream in there as well, which is kind of like the Microsoft version of their own little kind of YouTube. And then the video is there for you, and you can share it. You can decide who sees it. You can edit it. You can delete it. But it's just right in there in the one place. So that's what we're trying to stick to. But as I said, not everyone is doing that. Like, you know, we're kind of saying you don't need to be video in your class for some subjects. Like for me now, I'm doing it once a week when it comes to, because the class is doing theory mostly now. Maybe when it comes to the practical stuff, we'll be getting them to share their work and we'll be coding online and things like that together. But for now, because it's the first week, we're just trying to get them used to it, you know, and the teachers as well, just to get their heads around it.
And Sarah Jane, is it possible for you to share your desktop now to show us just a quick walkthrough?
Yeah. Can you all see my screen there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this is Microsoft Teams, and this is the web version that I'm using. There is a desktop version which kind of gives you a bit more functionality and seems to iron out some little glitchy things that sometimes happen. But anyway, so this is just say this is Miss Carey, first year English, and I go into so here's my team. I go into posts, which is here, right? And then if I scroll down here into posts, I can see start a new conversation. So down here, I can change the format. I can attach a file, add an emoji or a GIF. And this little Meet Now button comes up. So I hit Meet Now. And you can see here, I can turn my camera on or off. I'm going to turn it off because I don't really want them to see my dirty dishes in the sink behind me or whatever. And then you hit Meet Now. So what happens is, at the minute, you can see there on the right, that's me, I'm in it. But these students now are getting a call to arms, you know, like some kind of Avengers Assemble kind of notification in their teams, right? And they'll join, and then they'll be able to see and hear me. So I'll be chatting away, and once they're there, you kind of start with, now girls, can you all hear me? Is everyone there? And there's a chat function here. So initially the mics are all muted, because if you had a class of 30, it could interfere with the recording. You can chat away to them here if you like. And then once I'm comfortable that they're all settled and we're set up, then I click here at the 3 buttons and go to start recording. And then after the meeting, you can find it, got it. And then you get your message saying, let everyone know that they're being recorded. And at that stage, then you can chat away to them. You can share your screen here. And I could share the whole desktop, a particular PowerPoint. And if you had a touch screen, you could share your whiteboard. And these are just general presentations that you might have had recently open, and then you can browse to get something from your computer. So it's really handy. And then when I click on stop recording, it says after it, I'll find it in my posts. And then when I go back to the team itself, you'll see there, it says recording has stopped. And actually I didn't end the meeting. So this is the bit I was saying, I've stopped recording. Now I'm saying, listen, off you go. You have the work, get in touch with me if you want anything. I may not be able to answer you straight away because, you know, various reasons, but I will be on email. Any questions at all, email me and we can sort it out. And then you hang up. Now, another tip would be, make sure everyone who is in the room hangs up first, that you're the last to leave the room. Because there is an issue that now they're fixing it. I think it's going to be fixed this week, but there is an issue that the person hosting it leaves the room, the meeting is still carrying on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So always be the last to leave the room. And it allows time for students to hang in at the end in case they do have a question. Do you know what I mean? If a student was kind of nervous about asking something in front of everyone and the recording has stopped, they could hang out till the end and ask you something. And then you just hang up. And that's it. And then you see there now, it has meeting ended, recorded by teacher. And I can see that, first of all, it's there for the students. And if I open in Microsoft Stream, just like this now, I see here's my little video. Don't have the sound. And then after the meeting. Yeah, grand. And then you can see now that it's limited to only my team. And then if I want to change anything about it, if I update the video details, so at the minute it's called meeting in general, you might want to give it a more meaningful name so that if students search for it, they could find it. So you could have whatever topic it was, and then you'd have a bank of them maybe. And then here is allow everyone in your company to view this. Make sure that's switched off because you only want it to be available to your class, or maybe you don't. And at the minute you can see it's shared by me and it's shared with my English class. They are the only 2 people who have it available to them. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on. And then you can also allow comments. Now, I always switch that off just because, just really in terms of moderation, it's one less thing for me to worry about. Just when we're starting off doing all this, you know, I'll switch off the comments. And then that's it.
Were there any issues in downloading Team to the phones, Sarah Jane?
Not so far, actually. I haven't heard of that. There were issues with students. We had a lot of issues with students and their IDs and their logins not working. So that was a big thing. But that seems to be, we're getting that sorted out bit by bit, day by day. And then you have issues because usually if a student, if their ID is not working, you'd send a message, you know, and then you'd give it to your tutor who would go and see the student and give it to the student. But now they're not getting in touch. Like I'd be getting messages maybe from students who are saying, Miss, my friend so-and-so, her email address isn't working. And then I have to think, okay, well, I can't give you your friend's email address because it's GDPR. I can't give you the password. I have no, I can't ring the student themselves. So now I have to pass the password onto the parent somehow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so we're finding that a little bit funny now at the minute, but look, you know, there's not that many of them and we're working through it.
There is a reset password function that you can get though as well. I know it's happening a bit in ours that if a student can't log in, they can request a new password and the administrator can give them a new password.
But how does the administrator reach them?
You just see the messages coming in, password request reset. I know when just face-to-face was grand because I could reset it there and then in the class. But I see some students are sending in their request to change the password. I'm not sure. I don't do it because obviously precisely for what you say there, I don't know whether it is authentic or not. But I presume, you know, there must be some follow-up with that individual student, with the parent or something.
Yeah, I think that's what I think we're going to have to do. This only came up now. This is literally something we're discussing today. You know, that's how new everything is. So I think we're going to text it to the parent of the child. And any friend who sends in a request like that, that will be my standard response. Okay, tell your friend we'll send the new password to their parent's phone. And that way, if it is a mess, you know, if it is someone pretending to be someone else, they'll cop on or stop and it doesn't really matter, you know.
Students would come up to me and go, they know well I wouldn't know who they are. And they go, my name is Chris. Can you reset my password?
Yeah.
And I'd go away going, I don't know if that's Chris or not. And if I was in school, that's exactly what I would do. So,
you do.
Yeah, so
I never even thought of that. That never entered my head that would happen. Isn't that terrible?
We're just good there.
Innocence.
I know.
But the point, regardless of that, is that even if you do reset the password reset still has to get to the student.
Exactly. The logistics of it, like.
So you know, regardless of whether you are Chris or not, you don't actually have access to their account. Do you know what I mean?
And then should we send passwords like that over the phone? Like then we were saying, will we post it out to them?
I think your solution, Sarah Jane, is good though. You know, text it to the parent because you're going to have the parent's contact details. So therefore, you know, text it. And the reason why, you know, because if I suppose there could be a theoretical loss of communication from where a parent says, "Oh, I got a text from the school saying that your password has been reset. Here's your new password," and the student says, "Oh, well, you know," doesn't say to the parent, "I didn't request that."
Yeah.
But on the other hand, their password has already been reset, so in that instance, they need it anyway. So it's
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. You know?
Yeah.
It just causes hassle. It causes grief and hassle, really, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just a bit of background about what we're doing. The list at the moment, the CESI list, is available to all teachers who need it. So if you're a teacher and you're out there and you have any questions regarding IT in your classroom, then you subscribe to the CESI list by going to www.cesi.ie, and from there you can subscribe to the list. In the list contains, Adrienne, you'll probably correct me on this, contains between 1,500 and 2,000 teachers. Is that about right?
Over 2,000 now, Hassan.
Over 2,000 teachers, all exchanging information and ideas and teaching and learning. So if you do have a question or an idea that you want to share, then by all means share it on the list. Now, what we've decided to do here is have a bit of a chat about what's going on at different schools without reinventing the wheel and starting another instructional video. We wanted to create a safe place for educators to come and chat about what's working and what isn't working. So I wanted to move on to Adrienne, the work that the PDST are hopefully doing. Can we talk about that now? Can we mention that now?
Oh yeah, we can certainly mention it. I don't know a whole load, only that from next Tuesday, that in conjunction with the Teaching Council and through, I think, the Teaching Council website will be the main link, PDST are putting together a number of webinars. If you go to the website for the Teaching Council, that's where the link will be, and it would be intended that it would happen next Tuesday. I'm not sure of the time, and it would happen on Tuesdays after that. And the idea is to support the teacher in the classroom going forward. That, as you said exactly, Hassan, there is wonderful stuff out there, but there's an awful lot of it, and it can feel like you're drowning in too much good information.
Yeah, and I think that's what we can do here. So if anybody here, and hopefully over the next few weeks we'll have different people that join us at different times. If you have any good ideas or any good resources, please, let us know. I know Chris has a list of stuff. Do you want to run through that, Chris?
Sure, yeah, no problem at all, if you like. So all the resources I've gotten, and this ties actually into both Adrienne, what you were saying, and Hass, what you were saying as well. The resources that I've looked up, in fact, all came from the CESI list. I think it's worth probably just noting at this point as well, because one thing I know probably all of us find is that frequently the same questions are asked again and again and again, which is fair enough, because a mailing list by its very nature is not something that you would necessarily search back through all of your emails to try and find a particular question that you had. But having said that, it's very simple to go online and look at that mailing list, and that is searchable, and that's a very good thing to do. So if I do this, there you go.
Brilliant.
So that's that's the email there. So we'll just hide that, and then this is the open in the browser. So this is what the CESI list looks like in the browser. And in here, you can search up at the top. So if you have a question about, a whiteboard, I can do a search for whiteboard, and it returns anything that has the word whiteboard in it that was on the CESI list going back historically. I'm sure that there is a theoretical stop to how far it goes back, but, I'm back to 2018 here. So it's just all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to find information on the CESI list. So that I would suggest that would be the first place to look.
So not to be confused, that's not a Google search you're doing. That's just a search of groups of the CESI list itself.
That's correct. Yeah. So it's despite it looking up in the top left corner like it's a Google search, it is only searching through that list, through the CESI list itself.
God,
It's
that's
not
brilliant. I
searching.
didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I would suggest to everybody that really should be the first port of call, because it's the mailing list is an excellent resource of information. And, you know, stuff that people have answered is all there, and ideas and resources, everything is there. It's all there already. And so, in fact, that's a good segue into the fact that anything that I've about to show you, I've just pulled off the CESI list. That I've just really compiled those resources, and I've just opened different tabs is all I've actually done. I haven't done very much more than that. So I know, for instance, here's one YouTube channel with OneNote integration there. And we can put all of these up because clearly the web address is, you know, difficult to see for people. So we can put these up either maybe in a screencast at the end of the video. You can put all the resources and the links up.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. Thanks for reminding me. It's worth mentioning that anything we talk about today, as I'm taking notes here, will be available to click on.
Yeah, and there's a couple of ones that kind of stood out to me very quickly, and they are things like this, for instance. So this was created by Middleton College, and it's just using Google Classroom, and someone has just run this up on their own Google Classroom site from Middleton College, and frankly it's just an excellent resource. It's screen feeds. It's huge. It explains it in very short, very nice little snippets of videos, how to create your first assignment, as you can see, assigning quizzes, Hangout conferences, all these sorts of things. So that's one channel, YouTube channel, that teachers could go to and get very short snippets in very short period of time, learn how to use it. One of the others, sorry, not that one. One of the others was here, which is another one as well too. There's exactly the same idea. So this is from a teacher, Pádraig O'Donnell, I think in Donegal, and he's done the same as well. He's put up a large resource, and as you can see, even by the times, if you can see them there, they're 39 seconds, a minute and a half, 44 seconds. So again, very short snippets of how to do absolutely everything. And in this particular one, he includes a further setup of a thing called EdPuzzle, which is very good. So that allows you to take YouTube videos and basically assign a quiz via a YouTube video. And it ties directly into your Google Classroom as well. So in other words, the student doesn't have to create an account. They already have an account if you're a Google school, of course. They already have an account, and all that happens is they simply click on it in the assignment through Google Classroom. It brings them directly to EdPuzzle and gives them the quiz then and there. I won't run through it because anybody can go there and look at it themselves. It's very, Pádraig has set it up really well. It's very straightforward if you've never used it before. Basically, you just pause the video and you can add different types of questions in that particular video from YouTube. So very engaging for students, very simple, and in fact, very good because the feedback to the teacher is excellent in terms of you can tell how far the student has gone and stopped. So they've gone, you know, a third of the way through the video, and now they've gone half the way through the video, and so on and so on. And you can stop them from moving forward until they answer the question. So they can't actually just scroll through to the end of the video. So they have to actually answer the question. So, and you're given long form questions as well too. You can actually assign long form questions. So, and Pádraig runs through all of that, and he does a really excellent job of it as well too. Things like that. So, and then the last, I know one thing just to jump in there as well quickly is I know one thing people were asking was how to annotate some information that they send home to their students, and Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams all do that. You can do that within Google and or Microsoft. But if you don't happen to be a Google or Microsoft school, and perhaps you're a small, you know, school that hasn't signed up to either of those services yet, you can just assign PDFs to students. And my go-to for that would be the basic Adobe Acrobat Reader. in which is available on literally every single platform and device that's out there. It's free. It allows you to completely annotate documents very, very easily. You add text, you add circles, you can tick boxes, you can pretty much do anything. And then
sorry to interrupt you. And
sure.
That's free. That comes with the free version, does it?
It does. Yes, it does. It does. It's kind of a little known thing.
Yeah.
Further to that, just Adobe have actually also, much like lots of other companies, have made their services free for a limited period of time for education. So if you sign up, if you're not already signed up for an Adobe account, you can sign up for an Adobe account and they will give you all of their software for free for a limited period of time. I can't remember what that period of time is, but it's certainly a month or more anyway.
Brilliant.
Yeah, which is really, really good. And in fact, even a whole Adobe discussion would be for another session, but there's a lot of free Adobe software out there that's actually freely available on mobile devices, but not necessarily on desktop devices.
All right.
Which is really, really a really excellent thing to make use of as well too.
I think that'll be a nice discussion by itself.
Absolutely.
Just to walk around. I'll be completely honest with you, Chris, and like I've been a technician for years and years and years and years, and I've used Adobe. I've saved stuff as Adobe, but I feel like your man off the ad years ago. I don't know what a tracker mortgage is. I don't know. I don't know how to annotate anything on Adobe Reader. I just thought it was a reader.
Say, like, look, I know for people that use a Mac, Preview does a similar thing as well too. Preview would be Apple's own inbuilt PDF and text document reader and things like that. Preview does the same thing, but Adobe also does it, just in case you don't happen to have a Mac, because Preview is not available on on Windows platforms or anything else. And in many ways, I prefer Adobe Acrobat Reader anyway, because it's just very, very simple to use, and it's really excellent. Also, just in terms of even for teachers themselves, now that the software is free for a limited period of time, and I would accept that there's a little learning curve to it, but Adobe Acrobat, which is different to Acrobat Reader, so the full version of Adobe Acrobat allows you to create things like fillable forms and lots of other stuff as well. Lots of other things for students to do. You can even input little quizzes. You can input scientific notation, calculations. So you can actually use it as a spreadsheet, if you know what I mean. So even if a student doesn't have access to anything like Excel or Google Sheets or an Apple device or anything, they don't have access to anything. If they have access to an electronic device, Adobe Acrobat Reader will let them fill that information in. Now, there would be a learning curve for teachers to figure that out, admittedly. But
and you know what? I think that's Adobe. Yeah, I think that's a walkthrough for another day, because
absolutely, yeah.
If we want to keep this down to a half an hour.
Yeah.
Then sorry, Adrian, I cut you off. What did you say?
Oh, I just said that Chris is booked.
Yes, that's for sure. So I think that's it. Unless we want to add anything else,
no,
I think
I have to head now anyway, as usual. Run off.
Great, yeah.
No bother at all. Sarah Jane, thank you very much. Look, appreciate it.
Thanks.
We covered, and I thought this was going to be the other way around. We covered mostly secondary schools today. We were speaking about secondary schools. We didn't mention primary schools at all.
Yeah, Dermot Walsh is the man to get on that. He's done some fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I think I might reach out to him.
That'd be a good idea, because it is something we want to try. Some stuff is across the different levels because they're simply systems.
Yeah.
But, we did have an emphasis with that shadow of a doubt. It was all about second level.
Yeah, I'd also like to do something on special education needs as well. Resources that are available for special education. So we might do something like that maybe at another stage.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, I would concur.
That's cool. That's the calendar filling up. That's great.
I would say, like, I would put it out there that if anybody, in terms of people on the CESI list are looking for a question answered and things like that, and I'm sure Hass, you'll give people the timeline and things like that. But do send a message either to Adrienne or to the list in general, and it will be picked up. And whether I answer it or Hassan, it doesn't matter who answers it, someone will answer it, and we'll see, if there's enough interest, we'll put it into one of these discussions, I think, as well, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Yeah.
Okay, folks. Good night.
Okay. Neil, thanks very much.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Hope we didn't lose you along the way. If you have any questions, don't forget, as always, get in touch with us. Let us know. We're finding our feet at the minute, so we're hoping that we will put a call out for questions on a Monday, review those questions by Thursday's show, have a bit of a chat about them, see what works, see what doesn't work. Hopefully we'll feature your question. In the meantime, you know how to contact us. You can get us on Twitter at CESI Tweets. You can get us on the CESI list. That is www.cesi.ie. Go to you'll find the forum there. Subscribe to the CESI list. If you're a new teacher and your technology isn't your thing, this is the place for you. So until we see you again, take it easy.